Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 6 of Vuelta a Catalunya 2024. Today's stage, I promised you yesterday, was going to be a magnificent one, and it is going to be magnificent. So you need to watch 80 kilometers of racing if you really want to enjoy today's stage 6 of Vuelta a Catalunya, because it was just bodies all over the place, bikes going out the back left and right, teams riding the front that shouldn't have been. It's a magnificent stage and certainly a how to not win the stage from a couple teams, and a how to win the stage when you're talking about some of the biggest, best riders here at Vuelta a Catalunya. So make sure you tune in, have your seatbelt buckled down, because this is going to be a big time battle on stage 6 Vuelta a Catalunya. Today's stage at 155 kilometers, we're talking about 95 miles in distance, 5 categorized climbs, and it's going to be the last 3 climbs that we're going to get to see all of them. One's in HC. The last 2 are category 1s. It's going to summit. The last climb, 6 kilometers long, but it's the penultimate climb that looks incredibly difficult at about 8%. And it's 5 kilometers long. The HC climb that we're just getting ready to watch when the cameras come on proper is 15 kilometers long, and it's a monster of a climb, so you know there's going to be bodies everywhere. When the cameras turn on proper, just under 80 kilometers ago, we got 2 riders in the front. Bach Mollema from Trek, he's up there, and Hugh Carthy from EF Education. Both well-known climbers throughout their careers, and right now they only have a 25-second gap, because when the cameras come back, it's Visma Lisa bike on the front. Before they got on the front, it looked like UAE team members were controlling the peloton throughout most of the stage, but now we're starting the HC climb. We see Visma Lisa bike on the front, and they're throwing down. Now Robert Hessink's on the front, Tilla Walters is there, and they got their 3 climbers just behind with Kian Uldebroek, Stevie Kreiswyk, and Sepp Kuss. But what's going to happen? They got 5 riders, 2 ride in the front, and then we're going to see a crash going through the feed zone from the Uno X rider that was a little bit too far to the gutter. I don't know if I want to blame the Soigneur on this one, because he's pretty close to the gutter. Uno X rider ends up hitting the Soigneur. He falls off the side into the grass. Looks like everybody's going to be okay. But then when the cameras come back, we see that it's Hessink, Robert Hessink for Visma Lisa bike. His energy on the front is done. He's dropped to the back, and then he's hitting the Kern Farmer rider. I don't know what this is all about, but you see the little Kern Farmer rider look back at Robert Hessink and like, dude, you should be at the front right now anyways. Instead, you're getting dropped because you guys are all knuckleheads for pulling UAE Team Emirates. That's the first team of knuckleheads, but there's going to be at least one more on today's stage 6 as we get further into the story. Now, this HC climb's starting to get vicious steep, and this is where Esteban Chavez attacks with 5 kilometers to the summit. When it's about 13-14%, he's going hard for EF Education because they already wrapped up Hugh Carthy and Bach Mollema early into this climb. So now with Esteban Chavez going full gas, we'll see Stephen Kreiswyk and UAE Team Emirates at the front there. That's Grossschartner. He's pulling hard, trying to bring back Esteban Chavez, and the peloton starts disintegrating. Esteban Chavez will get wrapped back up, and UAE Team Emirates will get relieved at the front because Stephen Kreiswyk wants to start riding the front full gas right now, even though he only has 2 teammates left because Walters has already gotten dropped. With Stephen Kreiswyk riding full gas, we'll start seeing the peloton explode. It's blowing up, bodies, people all over the place. Riders are going to suffer just to make the time cut on the end of this stage 6 with the pace that Stephen Kreiswyk's doing. Now we're coming in about 2 kilometers to go of this first HC. Stephen Kreiswyk's at the front, but look what's happening at the back of this group of about 25 riders. Sepp Kuss is starting to come out the back. The American Flying Eagle is not flying high on today's stage 6, and he hasn't gotten on the radio to tell Stephen Kreiswyk to stop pulling on the front. I don't know what these guys are doing, but it's absolutely wrong because Sepp Kuss's legs are starting to die while Stephen Kreiswyk was at the front blowing it up. As Sepp Kuss starts coming out the back, it's time for Soler to go to work. Soler hops on the front. He's got Tadej Pogačar on his wheel, of course, because that's the #1 ranked rider in the Butterfly Effect, so you know he's going to be at the front of this group on stage 6 with Soler going full gas. Now we're coming under about 1.5 kilometers to go, and the group has gotten smaller and smaller smaller with everyone getting dropped. We see Steven Kruijswijk got dropped with Jan Uterbrooks after Sepp Kuss got dropped, and Steven Kruijswijk looked back over his shoulder, seeing Jan Uterbrooks and just accelerate and left his Belgian teammate back there dangling us. Now Steven Kruijswijk's trying to get back to the front of the group. I don't know why. He's been working on the front. Sepp's already gotten dropped, his team leader, and Jan Uterbrooks have too. But Steven Kruijswijk's trying to get back to the back end of this GC of favorites. As we look up front, it's Tadej Pogačar pulling with 1.3 kilometers to go. Guys, does he watch the butterfly effect or Beyond the Coverage? He must be watching it, because if I take you back to Beyond the Coverage before Milan-San Remo started proper, I told you during the days with Mercury when I was winning Redlands Bicycle Classic, this was my tactic. I was the best rider in the race. I have my teammates there, but I want to go a little bit faster on the climb, and I know I have the ability to go faster and still recover. This is an important tactic right now from Tadej Pogačar, as we know he's watching the butterfly effect and Beyond the Coverage, because he's setting tempo at the front, which is blowing this group to pieces. As we'll see, he'll bring the group down to about 12 guys. Now, why does he want to go on the front? First off, you can't ride the front if you're the outright favorite at a bike race unless you have such good legs that you know riding 1-2 kilometers to the top of the climb before the last climb starts on today's stage 6, you could easily recover for. But if he rides the front, that means Soler can rest, and it means Almeida can rest too while they're going up the climb. Rest at least as much as you can by getting a draft with Tadej Pogačar on the front. But he has to monitor the effort so that he doesn't drop his teammates. He's at the front because he listened to my story from before Milan-San Remo. Now he's driving it. Soler's sitting there. Almeida's going to start to struggle near the top of the climb here as he's slightly coming out the back, but he doesn't have to worry because it's his teammate in the front, and he knows Tadej Pogačar can back off the throttle. But with the pace up there at the front, with Tadej Pogačar going over the top, Almeida sprints onto the back. Like I said, about 12 guys. We start the descent. What does Tadej Pogačar do? He stays at the front for about 3-4 kilometers down this twisty, technical, crazy exciting descent here on stage 6, with Tadej Pogačar going full gas because he wants to extend, because of course we saw Visma Lease bike, all of them, not just Sepp, not just Jan Uterbrooks, but Steven Kruijswijk out the back, and they've been gapped going down this descent. So Tadej Pogačar, the Slovenian for UAE Team Emirates, knows he can go through these descents fast. He knows he can keep his two teammates, Almeida and Soler, sitting on the wheel getting a draft, and he pulls, like I said, to about 3-4 kilometers down this descent. Now it's time for Soler to get on the front. Soler gets on the front, and as we come off the narrow descending part of this climb, there's a hard right turn, and they come out with 12 guys still intact at this front group. We look behind, what's happening back there and who's chasing? Well, Steven Kruijswijk's on the front again because, like I said, his whole teammates have gotten dropped. So he's on the front. Jan Uterbrooks there. Sepp Kuss is there. Their group's about 25 riders strong, and it's going to get bigger. But Steven Kruijswijk's not getting any help. It's basically mano a mano. It's Soler pulling at the front, and it's Steven Kruijswijk pulling the second group. That's about 55 seconds behind the front group there with the GC favorites of Tadej Pogačar. Enric Mas made it in there with two teammates. He's got Sosa in there and Rubiera in there. And then, of course, Egan Bernal, the Colombian, is riding good here on today's stage 6 for Team Ineos. So he's made this front split along with a few other riders. We know Soler's got him pull hard, though, because Tadej Pogačar, like I said, is in this group. With the two groups back there, we got another climb coming with about 31 kilometers to go. That group back there with Visma Lease bike's going to get a little bit of help, hopefully there, luckily there, excuse me, for Sepp Kuss, because I don't know if they would have closed this gap because Jan Uterbrooks and Steven Kruijswijk looked like they were hurting. I saw Jan Uterbrooks pulling at the front after Steven Kruijswijk either went back for bottles or his legs were starting to blow. Either way, Jan Uterbrooks was pulling at the front for a bit of time, and then, like I said, they get a little bit of lucky because Israel Premier Tech will come on with about 5 kilometers to go before we start the penultimate climb here on stage 6. With the speed of Israel Premier Tech, they'll close up with about 3-4 kilometers to go before the next climb starts. Now, if you're in the front group, you don't care about these guys back here that are closing up because they already got dropped on the HC climb before that, and this next climb is nasty with 31 kilometers to go. We're talking about 5 kilometers and 8.7%. It's a monster in terms of pitches. Like I said, the group has come back together. We're over 50 guys easily in this front group. But half these guys, if not 2/3 of these guys, are completely done and wrecked and have already been dropped. So if you're in the front group, your UAE team members controlling the peloton, you don't have to worry because they're already dead. They hit the left turn with 31 kilometers to go. The climb starts proper, and like I said, it's a nasty one. We see UAE team Emirates at the front, and who's that? Well, that at the front there is Sivakov. Sivakov had gotten back on that second group. They pulled him back up to Tadej Pogačar's group. Now Sivakov setting tempo up this penultimate climb here. Tadej Pogačar, Soler's there. Almeida's still in this front group, so UAE team members must have some form as they're going up this penultimate climb. Then all of a sudden we see the next group of knuckleheads here. It's called Movistar. Enric Mas thinks he can win today's stage 6 or drop the other GC guys and try to go for a podium up here when it's all said and done at Catalonia. So he's got Sosa riding the front. Guys, he must not watch the channel. We know Tadej Pogačar does, but Enric Mas certainly does not, because he's got Sosa on the front pulling 100% on this steep, nasty climb. With Movistar on the front, Tadej Pogačar sitting second wheel, and then Enric Mas will slide in front of him, and riders are going out the back all over the place. Geraint Thomas got dropped not just once, but twice in today's stage 6 as he's coming out the back from the pace from Movistar. And then we start seeing all the hitters just dropping out the back left and right. When Tadej Pogačar throws in a massive acceleration, he splits it down to 4 riders on his wheel. Landa's there. Mas is holding on for dear life. Couple other stragglers that got little gaps there. Then the camera goes back. We see Soler's getting dropped from the back of the group. When the camera comes back up front, it doesn't matter. Tadej Pogačar's going solo early on the stage 6 here as he still has this climb and another climb left. With Tadej Pogačar going solo, Mikel Landa, he's had the best form, best of the rest anyways, for Soudal Quickstep. He's struggling to try to hold Tadej Pogačar, and Tadej Pogačar opens the gap up immediately and starts going solo. Landa's dropped everyone else. He's going solo. Behind, it's chaos back there. We see 5 riders with Egan Bernal and Vlasov in this group. They start playing a little bit of games going side to side. Then we see Chris Hoppa. Hoppa's coming back with Almeida. That's going to make 7 chasers trying to get the 2 guys. Then with about 900 meters to go, Tadej Pogačar is still solo. Landa's still solo. But Egan Bernal wants to go solo too as he attacks the group from behind for Team Ineos to try to close up the gap to Mikel Landa. Now, once they go over the KOM, of course, Tadej Pogačar is still solo by about 22 seconds when we look at Mikel Landa coming across the KOM for second place. Third, Egan Bernal. He'll do a little look over his shoulder and then cross to be third on the KOM, going over solo about 50 seconds, 40 seconds back from Tadej Pogačar, but only about 20 seconds back from Mikel Landa. The group must be right behind him. That's why he was looking over his shoulder. And when we look at what we'll call the 5th group, well, that's Sepp Kuss. Sepp Kuss is in this group. He's got about 8 guys with him, but he can see the group in front of him, so you know the American Flying Eagle is going to drop down this descent as fast as we can. Tadej Pogačar is taking maximum risk through all the corners, but he's holding up the bike perfectly. He's got one really hard right turn, and then it's going to hook on him a little bit, but he does it flawlessly for the Slovenian as he continues solo at the front. Now we get down to about 20 kilometers to go, and I got a little gripe here to come up with Anthony McCrossan, the commentator here that I'm watching on Peacock, because he says Egan Bernal, as he's kind of sort of doing something close to the Super Tuck, he starts talking about how it was Mate Mahorch that made the Super Tuck famous. Anthony McCrossan, are you ridiculous? I could tell you for a fact that back in the 90s, the Super Tuck was invented by Dean Myers down in SoCal, California, and my good, very good friend Trent Klasna. Those two invented it. How do I know? Because I was there. That was 3 decades ago. Mate Mahorch did not make the Super Tuck famous. Dean Meyer started it. Trent Klasna carried it on. I started using it early in the 90s. You're 3 decades off to say Mate Mahorch made this Super Tuck famous. As we see Egan Bernal, he's not in it, but he's trying to get as close to it as he possibly can because the Super Tuck, nothing was faster going downhill than that. So we see Egan Bernal as the technical part of the descent comes into the left turn. Egan Bernal is only about 15-20 seconds still behind the time there of Mikel Landa, and then in front of him, Tadej Pogačar's got about 45-50 seconds on Landa. The group behind, it's massive in size and will just continue to grow, but everybody's playing tactics. Nobody wants to work together. As we see attack from Vlasov, that means there's no cohesiveness right now in this group. He'll get brought back Up front, Tadej Pogačar is still going solo. Egan Bernal, with about 15, 16 kilometers to go, looks over to the camera and he gives a little bit of a grimace, but I think it's more of a smile. Right now, the Colombian is on good form. Yes, his legs are hurting right now. Yes, he's in pain, but I guarantee you after the last 2 years from Egan Bernal, he loves this feeling right now because he's third on the stage at this moment and he knows he's going to catch Mikel Landa as he wraps him up. Behind, there's still attacks going left and right, but the next rider to come out of that big group back there with Sepp Kuss is going to be none other than Enric Mas Movistar, whose team did that ridiculous tactic on the penultimate climb. Now he's chasing. When I was sitting on the Chesterfield, I was like, what is he chasing? But then when you look, he's almost there, maybe 10 seconds as there's a little rise in the road to the back wheel there of Mikel Landa and Egan Bernal. So this was a good tactic from Enric Mas, but he doesn't quite have the legs and he starts holding it there, but almost looking like he's going to blow. Up front, Tadej Pogačar is not looking like he's going to blow with 6 kilometers to go. As the last and final climb starts proper, we know the Slovenian's going to win today's stage, but just by how much? We look back as we go back down the road, Mikel Landa and Egan Bernal have held off Enric Mas as we're getting to the last and final climb starting proper, and Enric Mas is going to start dropping time now, a time like buckets of water back there as he's losing the legs big time, and we start to see him suffering. When we look further back down the climb to look at the big group, what happens? Sepp Kuss cannot find the legs. He's dropping out the back. Steven Kruijswijk already dropped earlier. And of course, Jan Uterbrooks doesn't have any legs. So Visma Leasebike's strategy with 80 kilometers to go on that HC climb was absolutely ridiculous. And they're all knuckleheads here on today's stage 6. We go back up to the group in front there of Sepp Kuss, and we see that there's about 5 guys in this front group, and Vlasov is one of them, but he's starting to suffer some. We go back up to Tadej Pogačar. We're coming into about 600 meters to go. The crowd is thick and just fans pushing in big time on the Slovenian because they all want a picture or run next to the #1 ranked rider in the world, Tadej Pogačar, as the motorcycles in front of him slowing down because the crowd's pushing in. Tadej Pogačar's got to start pounding on the luggage rack there of the police officer. He'll move over. The Slovenian to shoot through. Then we start getting up to about 75 meters to go. Tadej Pogačar shuts off his computer, doesn't need that anymore, then sits up, spins a web like Spider-Man, puts his hands up high in the air and punches the sky as he's the #1 ranked rider in the world, and he believes so too. Behind, what was happening? Egan Bernal took the front. He starts sprinting in to get second on the stage with Mikel Landa sitting on his wheel. Now with Egan Bernal's second place, he's going to move up to third on the GC. Behind him, Enric Mas coming into the last few hundred meters, about 300 meters there. He's got Chris Hoppe. Hoppe's having a fantastic week here at Catalonia as he's trying to bring back Enric Mas because they're just about tied on the general classification. Mas throws in one more dig. Harper throws in a dig, but Mas holds him off to go to line 4th. Harper will take 5th. Then the group behind across the line as we see everything getting mixed up outside of 3rd place on the general classification. Make sure you take a look because when we start looking at the top 3, Egan Bernal did enough to move himself into the podium, holding all of the hopes of Colombia on his shoulder as he has a fantastic form finally again after that catastrophic crash a couple years back into the back of the bus in Colombia. The Colombian rider now is on fantastic form, and if he can stay off the concrete, you know he's going to get better and better, and you know for sure Ineos are planning on bringing him to the Tour de France. That wasn't on his list before, but I told you I'm beyond the coverage. Egan Bernal is going to the Tour de France, and after today's stage finish here at stage 6 with a 2nd place finish, you know they got him listed for the Tour de France. Mikel Landa's fine ride today will get him 2nd on the GC after today's stage. But then who are the losers? Sepp Kuss dropped out of the top 10 on the general classification. It was catastrophic right here from Visma Leasebike, and everything from basically 3rd all the way down to 12th reshuffled throughout today's stage 6 because of some knucklehead ridings and some good legs and some bad legs. But Egan Bernal's on form. Tadej Pogačar, #1 ranked rider in the world, won his 3rd stage here at Vuelta a Catalonia, and we know he's going to win the general classification and wrap up the mountains jersey when it's all said and done. So he's on fine form. Just go ahead and give him the Giro d'Italia victory right now so we can have the Slovenian focus on the Tour de France 100% and go against Jonas Vingegaard, Primoz Roglic, and Remco Evenepoel in July. Oh well, not my plan. He's going to the Giro. Such is life. Today's stage, fantastic. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition, the last and final stage 7 here at Vuelta a Catalonia, starting tomorrow.